Oh no, hellos, and welcome back to another videos, and today we'll be taking a look at Top 10 Apocalypse. Oh yes, this set is kind of crazy. So, it's really just a set about Apocalypse, but none of these cards really seem apocalyptic actually, so we're going to be getting a pretty tame list. However, the next list will be the opposite of not apocalypse because this doesn't scream apocalypse. It just screams scary for me. Hmm, interesting. And you'll see the first scary card we have on the list. It kind of reminds me of Bane, and that's number 10, Phyrexian Rager. Rager? Roger? Roger. We're just going to call him Phyrexian Roger, even though it clearly says Rager. Okay, whatever. So 2 black for a horror creature, and then whenever this guy enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose a life. So why would this be good? Well, in Pauper, it's actually played in black control. Oh yes, and that's actually a deck in Pauper. And this card is really good because it gives you a card draw and a creature, which is really good in Pauper. You always want to have advantage and more. And card draw and mana fixing is really important in Pauper, not gonna lie. So this card can offer you a body and a source of card draw. So it's really good in Pauper, and it still sees play in mono black control to this day. It's kind of leading towards mono black land destruction. Some people wouldn't like that, but the deck is actually leading that way, which is very scary, and I don't like that. But oh well, it's Pauper. What are you gonna do? It's just a Pauper whatever creature. But yeah, let's move on to the next one before we talk about land destruction, because that's just great. And we'll talk about number 9, another Phyrexian, but it's Phyrexian Arena. Oh yes, I love this card actually. So it's 1 double black enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Sounds familiar. Well, it sounds familiar because it's basically Phyrexian Ranger every upkeep. Okay, well, it's let's just say it's Phyrexian Arena, okay? I mean, this is literally a card made for card draw. I mean, if you want to talk about like Dark Confidant, this is basically Dark Confidant if it was better, because this is actually better. Because Dark Confidant can kill you, not gonna lie. So yeah, I mean, it's 1 more black mana than Dark Confidant, but it's worth it because it's also an enchantment, and enchantments are really hard to get rid of. And I actually love this card, and it just sees play in EDH, and it's pretty much a mono black staple. And if you don't have it, you're not going to draw a lot of cards. So, pretty spicy and expensive card though, not going to lie. So if you want to pick one up, now's the best time because it's probably going to get more expensive from here on out. Yeah, it's that expensive. Let's move on though to number 8, which some people might not like this, but I was a part of the set, so let's just read this card. So it's Dragon Arch, 5 mana cost artifact, and you pay 2 to put a multi-creature card from your hand into play. So all I have to say for this card is Progenitus. Nothing else can be said. I really can't say anything else. Seriously, we're gonna really move on. Okay, so number 7. Sorry guys, I just had to. Number 7 is Frilled Mystic? No, not Frilled Mystic. Oh, it's Mystic Snake. Ah, it's different. It's basically the same as Frilled Mystic. It has Flash, and when Mystic Snake comes into play, counter target spell. So this was pretty powerful, even back in the day. I mean, just having that as a counterspell on a creature is really, really good. And not to mention that this is probably better because it doesn't have double green. It's just 1 in a green. So you can play it in pretty much you can play it in a green, splash green blue deck. I mean, it doesn't have to be Simic. And it's pretty nice. I mean, it's a 2/2 and Frilled Mystic. It's basically the same thing as Frilled Mystic. Let's not lie here. I mean, okay, Frilled Mystic has 1 advantage, and it's a 3/2, but who's going to care about power for flashing it in? I mean, really. But, extra damage is extra damage, but this is a different mana cost, so. It's probably good. It's most likely good. I mean, this card is pretty good. Well, it's at number 7 for a reason. But you know what? It's not number 6. And number 6 is Vindicate. And people might argue that this should be number 1, but there's a lot of more cards that I considered. And hear me out for this one. So Vindicate is a 1 white black, and it says destroy target permanent. Now that's pretty damn good. But here is the problem lies in this card. It's only at sorcery speed. So having something at sorcery speed, yeah, sure, you could destroy anything, but at sorcery speed and at that mana cost, it really, really hurts it. I think it was so close to being really good, maybe number 3, but at sorcery speed, it's not there. It's still a pretty nice card to have, but it's not the game-ending card. Like, you could just run Assassin's Trophy in that case. Sure, they get a land, but you could destroy anything with it. I mean, this card just doesn't scream like powerful. It's only a toolbox kind of, you know, spell. And those can be good, but it's not like it's gonna win you the game kind of good. So I only put this at number 6 because, yeah, it's good, but it's just not screaming good right now. Something might scream good, and I know it's probably going to scream good because at number 5, it's Pernicious Deed. It's not screaming. Okay. Let's just take that out of the segment of this video. No, we're going to leave it in. Editors? Me? Oh, okay, we'll leave it in. All right. So this is Pernicious Deed, number 5. So why is it number 5? Well, I'm gonna read it to you. It's a 1 black green enchantment, and you sacrifice this uh, person. I guess I don't know what enchantment. Okay. Destroy each artifact creature and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. So why would this be good? Well, because you're basically leaving your opponent on a clock. But not just any clock, a clock you can control, and you can say, do you really want to swing at me, bro? I don't think you do. I'm going to pop this thing. Now, the reason why this is good is because you could do it any time, and that's what makes it really powerful. This makes it a political tool in EDH decks where you really have the opponent on lockdown, and they really can't do anything unless they destroy this thing. So yeah, this is basically kind of a death sentence to anyone, playing their decks. If they run a lot of creatures, you can wipe them out. If they're playing an artifact-based strategy, you can wipe those out too. Enchantments too. Just wipe them good. I mean, this card has everything, and I highly suspect that this card's only going to get better the more broken creatures and enchantments are printed. Artifacts, they're toning down a little bit on the artifacts. I'm not going to lie about that. But creatures and enchantments, this is still going to be good. And that's why it's number 5. And let's move on to number 4. And number 4, in fact, is an enchantment, so Pernicious Deed can take it out. But just kidding. I mean, it's a goddamn good card. I mean, just look at that art. Okay, this is like highly underrated. This card is amazing, and I love it to death. I'd put it in any Jeskai deck I would really want. But there's some catches you gotta run into. I mean, you can activate it a lot, but there's a catch. So it's a 2 red enchantment, and this is just great. Okay, so 1 white, and you can search your library for an enchantment card to reveal it and put it into your hand. However, then you have to discard a card at random from your hand. Essential for your library, of course. So you can see why this is good and bad, but I think it's still pretty good. It's basically your gamble. It's a gamble on an enchantment. I mean, what can go wrong with that? I mean, this is just great, and you can use it every time. It's really good. I would play it in a Zedru deck. I think this would be really nice in a Zedru deck because some people really don't want to discard stuff. In a Zedru deck, though, if you have some bad stuff, this is actually really good for it because you can get rid of the bad cards you don't want. And that artwork is just amazing. And 1 blue is the same thing. You could just tutor for an instant and discard it at random. So, I mean, that's pretty good too. You might even just like search for a flashback card. I mean, there you go. Faithless Looting. You want it in your hand? You want it in your graveyard? Or no, that doesn't work. Never mind. It has to be an instant. So maybe Psycho Rift. There you go. Although I don't know why you would want that in the graveyard. Your search for a Psycho Rift, though. Come on, that's pretty nice. So yeah, this is just gamble on a enchantment. It's really, really good. And I love it. People should play this card more often. I don't know why people don't. And let's move on to number three. And number three is a cycle, actually. And I actually just left one card up here to show you an example. So these are what I call the Rainbow Pain lands because if you combine them all, they look like a rainbow, and they deal pain. So these are the Rainbow Pain lands, or the Rain Pain lands. Hey, that sounds pretty good. So I gave an example of Yapamaya Coast, so you can add one color's mana, or you can add green or blue mana. However, it will do you one damage. So City of Brass with different colors. Oh yes, I mean, not gonna lie, this is pretty good, and this is pretty good for mana fixing. This does see play in EDH decks, so it's a force to be reckoned with. Trust me when I say this. I mean, mana fixing is really important in EDH, and these lands, I love them to death, and I get like a couple of them every single time. And they're not actually too expensive. They're actually relatively cheap, somewhat. But yeah, and I like these lands because they can fix your mana while giving you upside. If you don't want to use the colored mana, you can always use the colorless. I mean, the options are endless. I love this land, and I think it's, besides, the beta lands, one of the most powerful lands in all of Magic. Okay, there's Cavern of Souls. All right, so maybe not the most powerful, but up there, up there. And let's move on to number two, which people will be surprised that I actually picked this for number two. So number two is Fire and Ice. And people might be upset with it, but hear me out. Fire and Ice, so let's read Fire. This is basically a split card, I think it's called. I have no idea. Wizards was on like serious medications to make these type of cards. I mean, why would you make a card like this? It's just ridiculous. Alright, so fire is a 1 red for an instant. Fire deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures or players. Now that may not seem good, but it's versatility, and versatility is really important in Commander. But I actually picked this also for a different reason, because actually red decks would sideboard this because it's just a really good sideboard card against other aggro decks, because you could just ping off 1 and 2. Kill them both at the same time. And that's why it's on this list. And Ice is pretty powerful too. It's tap target permanent, draw a card. So you can tap their land, and that's just great, or a creature. That's actually not bad for 2 mana, and you draw a card from it. It basically replaces itself. It's really nice. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this card. This card did see play in a tournament. I gave it the edge because of that, and I also gave it the edge because it's basically 2 cards in 1. I mean, what else is powerful about that? Now, there was other split cards that I didn't include in this list because they just weren't that powerful. I mean, this one's kind of powerful and has versatility. It's a removal, and it's also temporary removal. I mean, what can be better than that? People might be upset though that this is number 2, so it's my list of my rules. But you know what? Number 1 is not going to argue with anyone. So number 1, Goblin Ringleader. Oh yes, Goblin. So it's a 3 red. I think people know what this does. When Goblin Ringleader enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all Goblin cards reveal this way into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Any order. Damn it, it didn't say random? Wow, okay. That's automatically broken. Red should be random, not any order. Any order is like blue, okay? Why is red all of a sudden getting any order at once? I don't know, maybe this goblin has something against randomness. I have no idea. But yeah, the reason why this is number 1 is because goblin decks are in historic, and goblins have been powerful for like ever. So, I mean, it would be kind of a disgrace to not give this number 1. But it is a disgrace for this card to exist, or just goblins to exist in general. I mean, damn, like they're really powerful in Historic. They are so powerful in Historic that I believe it's like a vintage deck. Oh yes, and vintage goblins do exist. So do legacy goblins. I think legacy goblins is a bit better though. And yeah, that's basically the list. And the next list is going to be kind of spicy. I think people are going to like the next list. It's going to have a lot of broken crap. This one kind of did, but not really. I think the one broken card was Goblin Ringleader. Wasn't even that good. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye. And peace.